I'm going to show you how to qualify potential leads in Airtable so that you can eventually hand it off to someone else so they can do the heavy lifting for you. So we're going to cover firstly why use Airtable and how we use it. The second is setting up Airtable ready for you to populate the leads, and then we'll talk about next steps. At any point you can ask me questions at paul@paulhickensmentoring.com. So let's go into it. So the first thing is, why do we use Airtable? So there's two key reasons why we use Airtable. And I'll show you a base as to why we do it. I'll explain what a base is in a moment. So this is an example where we've got all of the messages, which you may have seen in a previous video. But the two key benefits is, one, that it allows you to have multiple options for each column. Right, so in Google or Excel, it's not the case. So what you can do is go edit and you can go select, and there's multiple options that you'll see when we go through that further. So that's one reason. The other is it allows you to create different views, which is easier to sort the data, and it'll become more obvious to you as we use it. So there's two key reasons why we use Airtable. So now what we're going to do is go through a simple setup for you so that you can go and create your qualified prospects in here. So when you come in, you'll have home, and I recommend that you get the free account, and I recommend you also look at YouTube and also the help within Airtable itself for some information. Now, obviously, if you want any questions, you can ask me at any point, but that's a really good place to start. So what we want to do is create a base. And if you've already created a base before that has got the messages in it, so this is the second video yet, you would just create a tab within the messages. But if you're going to create one for the first time, this is the first time you've watched it, what we're going to do is we're going to create a base. Now we're just going to call it by your company name, so it might be company ABC, and then you can change the color of the base. And then what we're going to do is we're going to think of this as a sheet in each of the in Google or Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this qualification, right? And as I said before, if you've got one that you've already done with the messages, you would have that sitting here before it. And if you have already got one existing, you just go add, you just go create blank, and you just call that messages, and then you just go ahead and create that. Okay, so under the qualification, you'll see that it's set up this, and we don't need to get started because that's what I'm helping you with. So you've got the information. So what it actually ends up looking like is something like this. So if I just go back here, and what we do is we'll go to the base here. And this is effectively how we set it up. Now what I'll do is, if I go created time, it just has all the data. So you can set up different views, and you can sort these views. Don't need to know that at the moment, but what we do is we often search by company name and company profile. You don't have to do that. Depends on how we've set it up for you as we've gone through the training. But you would have the company name, you'd have the company URL, the target person, you'd have some of your unique identifiers, right? So these are the things that are specific to your client. So for me, I want to know what type of tech consultant are they, and also what platform is their key platform. Now that may be different, very different for you. You may have that they're, a particular industry you might want to put in, what industry in. There's different things. Now we'll go through and set it up. What I'll do is show you how to create those columns, and then we can edit it as we go through. The next is we want to be able to screen. So what's happening here is that yourself, to begin with, is going in and putting in the information, and you're picking the target people. And what we're going to do is go through and we're going to qualify or reject them based on the ICP, the ideal client profile that we've come up with, right? But over time, you're going to give that to someone else to do, and over time, they're going to get to 75% accurate, and then you're just not going to have to worry about screening and qualifying. But what we don't want to do is put everyone into your sales CRM and clog that up. So what we're doing is using it here. Now, some people say, why don't we use Sales Navigator? And it's a good question. And you can use Sales Navigator, but we find that it's very hard to sort the information. And we actually learnt Airtable from one of the world's best LinkedIn outreach people, and they moved from Sales Navigator to this. So you're still going to use Sales Navigator as the source of the information, but it's not going to be where you put the information in. Okay, now if anything's rejected, we'll have a rejection reason. I'll show you how to set that up. Then you can have comments to inform the person that's doing the finding the leads for you as to why you've rejected them, so they get better, they get close to that 75%. You could also have the search that you've used to find that person. Now that created date, what we do is just move that all the way down here. And what I'll also do is that search term will just move here. So you can see how easy it is just to change the messages around. You just got to be careful though that is for each of the views. So if you do it in a particular view, it's not going to look the same, right? So what if you keep this as like grid view, let's say you just rename this master, so you know that all of the fields and the sequence and the way that you want the fields positioned is always in the master, okay? So then what you want to do is look at what date you're sending each of the messages, right? So the messages that you would have created, and I'll just quickly go and show you. So in the sales messages, you've already set this up. And if you haven't, go and watch the sales messages first. You've got message 1, then you've got message 2, and then you've got days after. So that gives you how many days after you should send that message, right? But it actually, in the table view here, what we want to do is just have the actual date that you sent it. So then you can calculate. Now we can get really smart and do a calculation field and do tasks and alerts in Airtable. All of that's possible. Let's just keep it simple for the moment. So you just go in and you'd say, okay, well, I sent that. I know that I've got to send that 7 days after, and therefore that's when I send the next message. And this is the day that I sent each of the messages. And then you've just got the created, and the other one that we always have is the modified date. So I'll just go modified time, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to set that up in a moment. And I'm in European, not the US, so that's the way that I do it. So that's a quick overview. So what we're going to do now is go and help you create yours. So remembering that we've got the messages in one tab and we've got the qualification in the other. And look, there's always little nuances by each client. So just remember, you can always reach out to me if you're unclear, and Connie can also help you as well. So what we're going to do now is set it up as per the way that I've shown you, right? So we're going to first, the first column is going to be company name. So all we do is go in here and just go edit field, and we'd say company name, and we want to make it a single text line because that's all that's needed. So the next one is we want a company URL. So we've got a couple of options here. What we can do is just create a new field here, which is a URL. And if I just type URL in there, it'll bring it up. And then what we could do is call that company, and depends if you like to use capitals or not, it's completely up to you. Company URL. And this is the company URL that you've got out of LinkedIn or Sales Navigator. And it's normally out of Sales Navigator, right? So you go there, and what you do is just, you can drag that across. Or the other way that you can create a field is you can just edit an existing field. So this one, we can just go edit, we can go target person, which was the next field. And what we do is make that a URL. Once again, we just search for it. And that is so the company is obviously the company, but then you've gone and selected a person within the target person. Now I'm going to go in more detail on this during our training, but this is just helping you to set up Airtable for getting ready. Then what we want to do is, let's say we want to change this field to, let's say it's, qualification 1, and we could set that up as a single select field, right? And in here, this is where you might put in your attributes, right? So, for example, it might be type of job. So it might be that this person is a director. This person, if I could type fast enough, this is the founder, right? So that might be one of the qualification points that you've got, and then in here you just go in and select it. Now, we'll come up with those, but that just shows you how to create that field. Then the next thing is we want to create a screening, right? So the screening is going to be, once again, we edit the field, we go screening, and what we do is we want to have it as a single select, so we can remove these, and we can say that it's qualified. And qualified would make that a nice green color, and rejected, i.e. they're not the perfect fit, we do not want to do it, we would effectively make that red. Okay, so that's the status field. Then the next one is you want to put in a free text, large text field, which is the reason for disqualification. I'll just put disqual. So that's a long text, so that's there. Then the reason can be twofold. What I always say is start with reason for disqualification, which is text, but then what you'd end up doing is have a single select field, which is, I'll just say reason for disqualification. And what you would do then is it might be the type of fit. It might be that they're an employee and you're after business owners. Whatever it is, we'll develop that again. It's just showing you how to create that field. And then you can also just put in any comments. So that could be a long text field, and that's just comments. Once again, you can ask me or Connie at any point what that is. Then you might want to put what the search is for the URL search that was in your LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's optional. You don't have to do that. And once again, if you wanted to quickly find it, just go URL, create field. So that's great. And then what we want to do is you want to know whether you've pre-engaged with someone. So that the next one is pre-engagement. So I just do a checkbox here, and you got pre-engage. And if they have, you just tick it off so you know that you've done that. And then what you want to do is set up when you sent each of those messages I showed you. So you would just have the date. We don't need the time. Local, it depends on where you are. So you just click on here. You could have that it's US, you'd have friendly, you'd have European, whatever it is, right? So let's just say local, which when you set it up would be there. Now, what I forgot to do is change the title. So I just do message 1. So that's when you sent the message 1. And then you're going to just create one for message 2, message 3, message 4. And it depends on how many messages you can put those in. So you can do that by yourself. And then the last 2 that we will do will be created. So we've got created time. We just tick off the time. We only want the date. And then the last one is modified time, which we would go in here and we go, actually, you don't have to type it in because it will automatically do it. So last modified time, you just go in here and it's got the date, and that will say last modified. Okay, so a quick recap. So what you've done is you've gone and set up all of these fields, and then you start entering your target companies, target person, the key person that you want to target within that company within here. You're going to set up what your qualification criteria is. So it might be job role, it might be something else. We'll discuss that in the call. You're going to then set up whether it's a qualified or rejected. The reason for the disqualification is text-based until you get a pattern, and then you're going to have that as a pattern field. You're going to put in any comments that helps to say, well, why did I qualify this person? You're going to put in the URL search that you use. That's optional. you're going to put a pre-engage. So when you actually pre-engage is when you pre-engage on a post before you send the connection request. Now, if someone hasn't been on LinkedIn, you don't have to do that, but that's if they have a post, you can do that. And then you're putting the date that you've sent each message, and you're just going to do that. Now, there's a quick little workaround here. So what you can do is just go duplicate field. And so what it does is just creates that as a copy, and then you just rename that M2. You go save, and that's the way that you do as many messages as possible. Now, once again, if you need any help, please paul@paulhigginsmentoring.com or contact Connie. Thank you.